everybody, welcome to Eternal Wall. We are here to film our new podcast, which is going out next Friday. And today we've got someone different in the hot seat. Welcome, Michelle. Hello. Michelle is head of partners, so we're going to just learn a little bit more about her today, ask her a few questions, get behind the scenes of Eternal Wall, and just see what's going on. Are you okay, Michelle?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, you ready for this?
Fire away.
Okay. So first of all, tell us about you. You know, what is your role here at Eternal Wall?
Well, I guess it's changed over time. So when I began, it's only a year ago and it feels like eternity. I started as head of answered prayers. And then over the last couple of months, that's transitioned a little bit, so I've become head of partnerships, which is really overseeing answered prayers and the relationship with the organisations we're connecting with for that.
Fantastic. So how did you first hear about Eternal Wall?
I think the first time I heard about it was when Rich came and spoke at my church. So I remember that on that Sunday I'd got my kids with me and he was talking about the design competition. So he got like the finalists up on the screen and was discussing the vision behind Eternal Wall and how the different designs could fit in with that. And both my kids are really artistic and creative and they just loved it. And I think what was really exciting was that everybody got to have a say. So after the service, people were invited to come and give their feedback and say which they thought was the best design. And I loved the fact that everybody's voice counted and that my kids got to voice their opinion. They were on board straight away and I was just thinking, this is a fantastic project. I would love to be involved. But at that point, I didn't know that I would be.
Yeah, so what happened then? What happened after that?
So I kind of logged Eternal Wall in my mind as something that I really wanted to support. But I was incredibly busy at that point teaching and didn't really think that it was something that I would end up working for, but it was always there in the back of my mind. And then a couple of years later, I had a real Holy Spirit moment where Holy Spirit said to me one day, you need to connect with your old boss. I used to work with a guy called Dave Silver, who was on the team here. He was my old boss at Nexus, which is a Christian music college. And I didn't know why I had to connect with him. I hadn't been in touch with him for a while, but the Holy Spirit said, don't mess around, you need to do it today. So I got in touch with him. And then when we met for coffee, it transpired he was working at Eternal Wall. And as we chatted, he described this person they were looking for to head up answered prayer. And I just felt like the Holy Spirit said, surprise, it's you.
Amazing.
And it was kind of like the Holy Spirit had got me there under false pretenses, but you know, it was just God's sense of humour that he didn't tell me why I needed to meet Dave, but it became really clear as we chatted that this was what I was supposed to be doing.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
So what was you doing before? You said you was a teacher, so it sounds like a really different role before.
Yeah, completely different. So I taught at Nexus, which is a Christian music college. I headed up vocals and songwriting there for a few years, and then when I had my kids, I transitioned. I decided that it would be a good idea to teach in schools. So I worked in Coventry schools for about 7 years, eventually headed up sort of the vocal programme for the organisation that I was working for. So I was going into different schools and delivering whatever lessons they needed, where people were running choirs or maybe doing vocal exams, piano exams as well, that kind of thing.
Oh, so you're very musical then.
Yeah, I love music.
How did I
know, we've not had that chat yet. We've not had time. We're so busy. We haven't had that chat in the office, so yeah.
Excellent, fantastic. Just tell us in one sentence what this project, Eternal Wall, means to you.
Oh, I just think it's the most exciting thing that I've been involved with, probably ever, apart from having children, because it's, to me, this is all about the church and the people of God finding their voice, telling their story and finding their voice.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, so come on and tell us, what has been your most significant event since you've been working here?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I could answer it two ways, because in one way, lockdown has been the most significant event because it's impacted everything. But I think in terms of what we do here, we've bookended almost lockdown in the sense that right at the start of lockdown, we were running what we called our 10,000 Testimonies campaign with the aim of spreading hope and getting people talking about the good things that God had done in their lives. And then in January and February this year, we've done the Answer Prayer Challenge. So similar thing, we've been getting people to upload their stories of answered prayer and just celebrate all the good things that are going on so that we can spread hope on social media. So yeah, that's been really significant.
Yeah, amazing. So tell us, how many answered prayers do you need for Eternal Wall?
So we need 1 million answered prayers.
Wow, 1 million.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because that number kind of makes your head explode when you start to think about it too much. But the first day that I came to work at Eternal Wall, as I was driving along, I was saying, God, 1 million answered prayers, I'll never be able to do that. But I know that there's more than 1 million answered prayers out there. And then God just said to me, Michelle, is the number 1 million harder than the number 1,000 for me? And I realised that no, it's a number, and God's already answered so many millions of prayers around the world. It's just finding the ones that He wants to be featured on Eternal Wall.
Yeah. And is it easy finding 1 million answered prayers? Like, how are you doing this? How are you finding people to tell you about their answered prayers?
Well, there are so many ways of gathering answered prayers. I mean, it is a big challenge, and it's getting people to realise that that every answered prayer is important, that their story matters. So they might think that because they've not raised somebody from the dead, that it's not good enough to feature. But really, we want to show that God's interested in every part of every person's life, and that when we invite God in and say, I want to have a relationship with you, then He wants to be answering prayer. He wants to be showing us that He is journeying with us.
Yeah.
And so actually we're starting conversations with churches, individuals, but also finding answered prayers in books and archives, because there are centuries and centuries of people who've prayed faithfully and seen God move. So we want to celebrate what has happened as well as what's happening now.
Amazing. And so how will we see this on Eternal Wall? Like, how will we see the prayers?
So, well, there'll be different ways for people to interact. Obviously, we're giving people brick certificates because if their answered prayer is going to be featured, they will need to know the number of the brick, which is somewhere in that 1 million bricks on Eternal Wall.
Right.
Then there's a special app, and they can type in their brick number and go and find where it is physically located. But there will be portals where people can interrogate the database and say, okay, show me answered prayers about, tennis players, or healing from cancer, or answer prayers where God said no, because it's really important that people understand that God can say no, and that can be a good thing. Sometimes it's something we grapple with, but God doesn't always say yes, and that's part of the journey of learning what a prayer is like and what an answer to prayer might look like.
So have you connected with churches and different organisations? What's your work with partners?
I mean, we're just scratching the surface in a lot of ways. We're trying to connect with more and more churches from all different denominations. We really want to show that God is working in traditional churches, in Pentecostal churches, all around the country and all around the world, but also connect with people in every different nation, because somebody's experience and the kind of prayers they're praying in the persecuted church is very different to what a prayer and an answer to prayer might look like in a Western country, or in a situation where somebody's in a natural disaster. They will be praying, real help prayers that need a really immediate answer, and somebody else might be praying for 30 years for reconciliation in their family. So we want to connect with individuals, churches, organisations, all the nations, and show that God is on the move right around the globe.
I mean, that sounds amazing, and it sounds ideal, everybody connecting, sharing their answer prayers. But in reality, is it that easy? Have you found some days tough?
Some days are tough. Some days you sit down and you don't move from your chair till the end of the day, and then you look at your to-do list and you've not even ticked off number one, and it could be demoralising. But then there are days when you just know that the Holy Spirit is making connections, and people are approaching us and saying, I've just seen you, or I've just heard a podcast, or just heard something about you on one of your partners' radio shows, and I want to connect, and I think we can do this to help you. So, sometimes it feels like hard work, but some days you just know God's opening doors before we've even got there.
And is that what keeps you motivated? Is it keeps you driven to do it?
Yeah, I think so. And the fact that, not every day and not every task might feel like an adventure, but when you stand back and see the big picture, you realise this is actually a really big adventure.
Yeah.
And it's not just the team in the office, but it's all the volunteers and the churches and organisations that are moving with us. It's a big movement towards a goal that is going to make a massive impact on the nation.
So are you looking for more people to join that movement and be part of this?
Absolutely. That's my dream. The more people, the better, because this has to be representative of. It has to be a million stories. It has to show diversity of people's experience of what it's like to have a conversation with God, and the people coming to visit need to see that it's not one-dimensional, but all these answered prayers show different facets of God's character, His faithfulness, how He provides, how He breaks through, and that's what's going to resonate. So each person's story will resonate for a particular person or group of people that read it, and another one will be really significant for another person when they visit.
Excellent, amazing. Okay, I really want to know, what has been your funniest time here? Think of a moment. Spill the beans. We want to go behind the scenes here and find out what has been the funniest time here at Eternal Wall.
It's really hard to say. I think it's just, I love being in a team, and things happen naturally in a team. Like, I'm just thinking about our cameraman, who the other day told one of the worst jokes I think I've ever heard, and there was just a collective groan of, "You're training to be a dad." That was a really bad joke. It's things like that where you kind of feel like you're all in relationship and working together, and it just changes the atmosphere and you have a funny moment together.
Okay, I think you could give us a bit more though. Come on, Michelle. What's it like working with Richard?
So working with Richard, I was trying to think how to say this without getting in trouble.
Just say it. We want to know.
So Richard is a blue sky thinker, and I've worked with blue sky thinkers before, and it's never boring. It's never dull. It can be quite tiring, but
does it keep you on your toes?
Very engaging. Yeah, so Rich can walk into a room and just download this blue sky kind of, if there's no limits, this is what needs to happen next. And then all the team is sitting there thinking, I've got to work out how that happens. And so sometimes it's like working with the Apostle Paul, and he downloads and then he's off onto the next thing. And sometimes you kind of think, you're a bit like Caractacus Potts from Chitty Bang Bang, because your head works in this different way. It's not how I see things, but now I'm going to have to try and make this happen. Yeah. So it's interesting, but it's fun.
Keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, but I think we're all learning a lot. That's the great thing, isn't it? If we were all the same, we wouldn't make this happen.
Yeah.
It has to have a real breadth of expertise, character types, and giftings. Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Totally. And it's such a big vision and a big dream that we're all trying to build together. Yeah. So it's fantastic. Absolutely. Okay, I've got one last question for you. Why is it important to make hope visible?
I think that's a really easy question to answer at the moment, because we've just been through, one of the hardest experiences for most people. Looking back, they're going to say, that was a really difficult year. The lockdown after lockdown after lockdown has been a real challenge for people. And so I think, not minimising what COVID has been like for people. People have been devastated. They've lost loved ones, they've lost jobs, they've lost businesses. I think it's so important at this point to be able to say, look, that is not the end of the story. And we believe in a God who took the tragedy and the pain of Good Friday, and then brought this redemption and the resurrection story out of it. So what looked like complete despair was just like the launching pad for what he really wanted to do. And that's not minimising what we've been through this year for anybody. I think we've all found it incredibly tough, but our job is to keep telling that story and keep reminding people this isn't the end of the story, and God, through the whole of history is working a redemption story, and there's good stuff.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle. It's been great to chat to you.
It's been a pleasure.
And find out a little bit more behind the scenes. Please do tune into our podcast. We are going on our podcast every Friday at 12 noon. That's when we release everything. So make sure you tune in, hear more from people like Michelle, behind the scenes, the team working for this amazing project, Eternal Wall. Thank you so much. See you again soon.